From grassroots levels to top tier international competition, what lessons do the women in sport have for Bihar? To lead this next panel, Empowering the Game, Unleashing Women's Potential in Sports, I invite Ms. Lavanya L., Principal Correspondent Sportstar.
Hello, everybody. I know you've been asked to sit still, but hopefully the conversation will keep you going through the security check and a little after that. Throughout the day, we've had conversation about women's sports. We've had conversation about female athletes. Ravindran sir here has even pointed out to a couple of women who were here in the crowd and pointed to them when conversations came up. This panel is a little bit of an extension of that. And to speak with me about just the challenges facing women in sports and how that can relate to Bihar, I have three very special panelists who I want to call on stage. I'll start with Deepa Malik, ma'am. Can we please have you on stage, ma'am? Next up, I'd like to invite Aditi Mutadkar. Please join us on stage. You just saw her 5 minutes ago, inking what was a fairly interesting deal with the Bihar government, which we'll talk a little bit about in this panel as well. She represents the Simply Sports Foundation and was a badminton player herself. And finally, I'd like to call Mihira Khopkar, sports nutritionist from the Reliance Foundation. Please do join us on stage. Okay, so since the conversation came up about menstruation, which is what we were speaking about, so let's start there. We were talking about uncomfortable conversations, what women or girls who come into sports have to sort of deal with if this is a barrier for them to even continue in sports. And quite befittingly, this was sort of mentioned right before this panel. So we'll begin from there. Deepa ma'am, I want to start with you because it's not easy, one, to have a disability and then menstruate and play sport. So you've been very open about that. We know your experiences through that. There's a book there as well which you can pick up, which ma'am is happy to sign as well. But can you just tell us a little bit about conversations around menstruation when it comes to women and how that might be a deterrent for people to just continue in sports?
Yes, I'm so happy we are having this open conversation in such a candid manner because ये एक वो मुद्दा है जिससे सब शर्माते हैं. पहले तो महिलाएं कम हैं, there are less women in the ecosystem and even lesser in the coaching fraternity. So obviously, if at all a girl or a woman athlete is training, they're definitely training with male counterparts. Somebody who's a man and he's the coach. So it becomes, and I think I give a lot of this thing to the way the society is. We, as it is, a not very open society when it comes to menstruation or talking about menstruation, so much so that you know, we've even grown up in a time where we were told not to touch pickle bottles or not to enter the temples or the religious area in the house, or to first have a bath before coming inside, even if it was severe winter. So there's so much of taboo around menstruation, as if that is a time for you to become an outcast. So organically, when girls 80% grow up, they grow up with a shyness of talking about something like this. And this is such an integral part of a woman in sport. If I take my own example, I was training for the Paralympics at the age of 46. And I was training for the 3rd edition of my Asian Para Games at the age of 48. And during this time, I was changing my diapers more because they would fill with blood than with urine. And I started off as a para athlete, as a swimmer to begin with. From 4 years, I had a career of a swimmer. And I used to go for training camps that would come, and I would never have this conversation how to manage my periods if I had to enter water at the time of a competition and I'm having my menses. So when I asked the coach, it was as if not just bricks, boulders dropped. The whole room full of para athletes, the jaw dropped. And I was like, कैसे बात करती है? ऐसे कैसे बेशर्मी से बात कर लेती है? And I seriously wanted to know. I mean, I had not done swimming at international level. I just became a sportswoman out of passion in search of ability beyond disability. I really had to turn from a homemaker, from a mother, from a elderly woman into a sportswoman. So these were the knowledge questions I was asking. And similarly, when they said दवाई होती है, दवाई खाएंगे हम, दवाई से dates आगे पीछे हो जाती हैं. Till I asked another fellow athlete from another country and made a conversation because I was fluent in English and I could ask one of the country girls, and she says, why don't you just use the tampoons? And when I discussed tampoons, someone said, it's okay, you are a married woman, you've already had your children, you can use a tampon. A young girl who's unmarried cannot use a tampon, because that is now going to raise a question on her virginity. Now these may sound like very simple things, but they mean a lot when you are talking about these issues in the world of women in sports. So I think, and when I took on as an administrator, I felt that my journey as a mother of 2 girls and a person who started playing at the age of 40, I could very boldly talk about these topics, and these conversations made more and more girls come out and play in disability.
Right. Thank you, ma'am. That was a great place to start, because when we discuss using these conversations in a grassroots level, Aditi, we know a lot of work that you guys have put out on just how you've conducted camps in several places. You've dealt with a lot of girls who come through the system as well. What are some of your biggest challenges? I'm sure talking about your bodily processes is definitely one of them. And that sort of deters people not just from going to school in certain cases, but also from continuing a career in sport. Either you have imbalances, or you gain too much weight, or you don't gain enough weight to continue in sport. What were these conversations like for you when you were meeting girls in the grassroots level, or even women who perhaps, like ma'am said, wanted to figure out like an athletic career maybe later on in their lives? Please bear with the dog distraction.
Should
even
we-
I can't stop looking at it.
It's a happy distraction.
Yeah, it's a happy distraction. So I just, first of all, I just wanted to thank Sportstar and BSSA Ravindran sir and his team for letting me come here and give me this opportunity. I head the Athlete and Women Initiatives at Simply Sport Foundation, and one of the very important initiatives that we run there is called Simply Periods, which in the last 3 years has reached more than 7,000 odd athletes and coaches across India through our workshops. Before I kind of answer this question, I just wanted to say that BSSA or Bihar, I've been here for 3 times for our workshops in Bihar itself with the girls and the coaches. And I've always felt that Bihar is a state currently which is female first. I really think so, and I have to congratulate Ravindran sir for that, because the sort of empathy, the sort of openness, the sort of the whole thing about saying I don't know and I want to help and how can I help is something that I've seen so forthcoming in Bihar. And it is really a female first state. Like all their, when I remember when the Asian Cup, came into Bihar, I told sir that thank you so much for choosing Women Asian Cup to sort of come into Bihar, right? It could have been men. So I really feel that, BSSA is female first. And so I really want to thank Ravindran sir for sort of, making sure of that. Coming to the question of the challenges and, what we have observed through our workshops, I think the awareness, be it grassroots or even elite in some cases, is quite similar. I mean, there are a lot of things that we know and we don't know about menstruation, about our own bodies. And it is not just limited to periods. It is things like breast health. It is things like pelvic health. It is how puberty works, right? Or what about body image issues, right? So there are a lot of things that are very specific to women and women health, which is currently lost somewhere. And we have not had a conversation with our athletes and coaches about it. Some of the things that we've realized is that nutrition, and I'm sure Mihira will add to that. So for example, a lot of our athletes suffer from really very, very low hemoglobin levels. And you sort of mix that up with heavy bleeding, for example, and that is going to be catastrophic, right? Because you're going to have higher level of fatigues and you're going to not be able to, kind of perform at your best level. So that is one, in terms of, just
the nutrition levels of our athletes is a big problem. The second piece that we have seen is products, like ma'am was saying. Today, there are various options available for athletes, even period underwear, for example, right? I mean, and especially grassroots athletes are not aware about these options that they might have. There are a lot of misconceptions around contraception. You know, I mean, how do you use it? Why do you use it? You know, yeah, जैसे ma'am ने कहा कि can I use a tablet to, you know, postpone my period, prepone my period? What are the side effects of all of that? So there are a lot of misconceptions around all of these things as well, and that comes through our workshop. The other thing is that the athletes themselves, because they know not as much about their own body and about the process, they're not able to have a confident conversation with their coaches about it anyway. And they don't know that period is something that is going to affect their performance. It's like ma'am said, that it is extremely like everything else in our body and every other nuance in our body. Our physiology matters, and it has an impact on our performance. And that's why the onus is also on the athlete to be able to, you know, talk about it openly. In terms of the coaches, what we have seen is, luckily, coaches don't lack empathy. They don't. I mean, when we started off, I really felt that, you know, they were the sort of, they're male coaches and they are the villains, and, you know, they're not empathetic towards us. But what we have to understand is that our coaches are also coming from the same culture, from the same places that we come from as girls, right? And these are not coffee table conversations. So, but once you have these conversations with them and tell them how, you know, how things impact sport, they all are more than happy to sort of help, right? So I think the conversation is extremely important, and kind of having our, even for example, technology that comes in, right? Do we have female parameters specific to female in our, you know, all our sort of athlete development technology, for example, right? So I think we need to sort of have this very specific female body, mind lens on sport, which I think is currently sort of missing. And he will agree.
Absolutely. You spoke about parameters and how that comes into play when you look at athletes, right? Mihira, I want to take this to you, because when you deal with athletes, and you were with that Paris contingent as well, we'll talk about the fact that you took your kid there and what that means. That's another conversation, which we'll get to in a couple of minutes. But in terms of getting athletes to be forthcoming about, say, their bodily problems, or even doubts that they may have about nutrition, or what they need to do in certain times of the month, or how their exercise regimen needs to be, what have your bigger challenges been, especially, and this is not a rural-urban problem. Even we sort of hesitate to talk openly about our bodies to our doctors, right? So for athletes, what is that biggest challenge for you been?
I think I'll touch upon 2-3 pointers basis what they've all spoken previously. I think the first one, like we discussed, is communication. And some of the work that we and Aditi have done in the past, we realized that out of the 500 athletes that we surveyed, 70% of them openly said that they find themselves in a very uncomfortable spot to speak about menstruation related stuff to their male coaches. And without having these conversations, there is no pathway, there's no way ahead. And I feel like it's the onus on all the coaches to make the female athletes more comfortable for them to come up and speak about these things, for which I think the coaches, parents, the support system needs to be empowered and educated for them to have the comfort to talk about it and then transfer that knowledge to the athletes. So communication has been and continues to be a very, very huge barrier. And I'll share a couple of case studies basically with a few female athletes that we at Reliance Foundation sponsor. And we have a holistic sports science and medicine system that takes care of these young girl athletes. And these are examples of these badminton players who train somewhere else. We are not a residential program, but they train somewhere else. And this young girl kept having repeated stress fractures. And then when we investigated further is when we realized that there was this pressure to be light on weight, to be light on body fat, to be able to be agile and light on the court, have a great reaction time and stuff like that. And this constant messaging going around everywhere that kitna weight hai, kab kam hoga, what is your test saying and stuff like that. And that made her get into a routine of not following the best dietary practices. The training load continued to be very high. So the amount of expenditure in calories that she had through training didn't match what she was fueling in. And that repeated low energy availability for her to train led her to have irregular periods, which further led to, for example, a drop in estrogen as a hormone in women, which is one of the most profound hormones that influences many things, including bone health. And that estrogen, because it was so low, started having issues with her bone health. Bones became more porous, they were not strong enough, and which is why she was getting these stress fractures repeatedly. So it all boiled down into having the best nutrition practices, and then that being communicated with the coach and the load being monitored accordingly. So most of these things usually get solved if you just communicate and talk as a part of an entire holistic sports science and medicine system.
Right. Deepa ma'am, I want to come back to you because over the last, say, specifically over the last two Paralympic campaigns that India has had, I know there are several instances where you have personally sort of helped out a lot of athletes figure out those personal barriers and really make little things comfortable for them that made a difference finally in them winning medals. I don't want to ask you specifics because of course it's their own stories to tell, but if you had to speak about when we say challenges or when we talk about unleashing women and their potential in sports, in the para sports category, how much of it are we actually taking for granted? Because we already see these are conversations which probably 4 women can have sitting on a stage where we discuss how much an athlete's bleeding, where they're going, who they're talking to, what they're eating and stuff like that. But there's a whole other conversation to be had even within this when you talk about para sports, right? What has that been like for you as an administrator?
I think there has been a huge change and shift in the mindset. It took one medal at Rio Paralympics to kind of create that ripple effect, which suddenly gave belief. And I would really thank the government, and I will thank Honorable Prime Minister, because once we won that medal, once the woman, the first ever woman of India won that medal, there was a lot of respect given to her. There was a lot of awards bestowed upon her. There were a lot of cash awards given to her. And suddenly there was this persona who won a medal and who actually was a woman, suddenly became an aspirational figure for many other women. And I was so surprised, and my fellow para athletes present here will agree that post that medal in Rio, we had not just parents, we even had husbands bringing their wives. We had children bringing their mothers to come out and play in disability. And I was so touched when one of the athletes came and said that, Madam, we were trying to convince my in-laws, the husband and the wife, we were trying to convince the in-laws that we want to go out and play. And they said, what play? Bahu khelegi? And they said, nahi, wo khel mein bahut kuch milta hai, naukri milti hai, award milta hai, सरकारी नौकरी लग जाएगी. And they said, कौन सा खेल है ये? उसने बोला जो दीपा मलिक खेलती है. ओ दीपा मलिक वाला खेल तो बड़ा सुथरा है, गणा मिला करे है. And then she came and she played and she also became a Paralympian. So what I'm trying to say here is that we need to create more role models, and that will encourage more and more women. And being in the administration, I felt that there was a lot of faith out there. When you have women in the ecosystem, parents of the girls, spouses of the girls, or the family of the girls, they feel safe. They feel a sense of security when they say women in the ecosystem. So it's very important to do that. And yes, it is challenging when the challenges that you talk about. In disability sports, I realized there was another thing that was happening with women. If you have to wheel yourself and you don't have an infrastructure which is wheelchair amicable or disabled friendly, or the distance from your training ground to the nearest accessible washroom for women to go and pass urine, or to have diaper stations, because even if you create a bathroom for me, I need to lie down to change a diaper. I suddenly realized that the women are not either having enough water, because walking to the washroom is becoming an issue, or even if they want to have that kind of water, they are avoiding because they have no knowledge of wearing diapers or urine bags. So that is also some conversation that we made. It had nothing to do with sports. To be honest, it is a very basic urine bladder management. So this kind of rehabilitation in para sports is also very important. Body management, not just from the point of view of diet, nutrition, biomechanics, but basic things like your urine and stool management is also a challenging factor. And That is also something. And another thing which I was sharing with you, I won't name the athletes for privacy's sake, but a particular athlete would not reach the podium, and I would then analyze her pictures or her reel, and then I called her up. I said, when I remember my ugliest picture ever, you can Google it now, those who are holding a phone, is when I was throwing the final throw on which I won my medal. My whole face is squeezed, my eyes are turned. It is seriously the ugliest. People don't recognize me. Say, "Arey, aap wahi hain jiski wo photo hai." I said, where is the pressure? The pressure is not showing on your face. You are not giving your optimum performance. She very shyly looked down and said, "वो मेरा urine leak हो जाता है जब मैं जोड़ लगाती हूँ." And I said, "Why aren't you wearing a diaper? वो क्या होता है?" So, at the moment she started using a diaper, she touched a podium and the national flag was going up. So, these are some conversations, and I'm really, really happy that the silver lining in the cloud of COVID was the development of this webinar technology. This communication made it so easy because you can talk about it without really sitting in person. Even if you are shy, there was a medium to have that discussion and these conversations. And we, as a federation, we really used that to create this kind of information, get people to talk about these topics in simple Hindi language, and were even able to show them the products without them actually sitting across you and feeling shy. They could shut down the camera and they could just learn everything. And if I may draw your attention to the statistics, 2016 had the first female medal, but with Tokyo and Paris, we have 14 more female Paralympic medals. That's a huge change that has happened.
Absolutely. You spoke about these conversations not even being about sport, right? These are basic, everyday things, hygiene things, socio-economic things. Aditi, I want to bring you in here because a lot of the work that you do is a means to an end, isn't it? It's not always about creating, say, a medal winner. It's about maybe using sport as a way to make some other door open. It's also about having social structures come up alongside better education, better awareness, maybe a career for all you know. What has that conversation looked like for you? What are the barriers that have stopped you there, or what have you had to overcome when you try and have sports as the building block for something? Because why should someone care about sports when there are 10 other things going wrong in their societies?
At Simply Sport, we are a grassroots sport development organization, and like Sumariwala sir in the morning was saying that we need to focus on the ecosystem as well. As much as we are focusing on the athletes, I think there is work to be done at the ecosystem level so that you can enable more and more athletes to come in. And that's why we sort of support grassroots organizations. And in our work with grassroots organizations, our focus is on girls and women in terms of, figuring out how we can get more and more to play sport and, to sort of develop from there. I think in terms of getting more girls to play, what we have realized is that the first thing that one needs to do is to actually talk to the parents, and safety becomes extremely, extremely important. Girls are just not safe. I mean, we just have to accept that that is a reality, and that's why having a safe environment for them, it could be in terms of if the field where they are playing is, say, 5 kilometers away from them, can we also provide public transport, safe public transport, so that they can come to the facility, right? Because that becomes extremely important from a parent's point of view of letting the girl play, because क्या आप छोड़ेंगे, क्या आप लाएंगे, तो हम भेजेंगे, right? Because they are not going to send girls on a cycle, after a certain point in time, and if your training is happening during that time, it is a barrier. So I think we need to solve for something very specific when we look at, girl programs and getting them to play. And safety has come up as number one in most of these cases, and we have to solve for that. I think in terms of the other challenges that, we sort of face of running girl programs is to inculcate parents into these conversations. You cannot sort of there are socio-cultural barriers of getting girls to play, but if you empower the girls and the community to sort of come in and have these conversations, there are better chances of getting more and more girls into these programs. The other thing is having role models. I think like a lot of our partner organizations actually have mother tournaments. They get mothers to play a ultimate frisbee match, or they have mothers to play in their saris a football match, right? And when you see a mother doing that, it changes a lot of things. It hardly remains something about sport. It's about freedom, about independence, that my mother is playing, so can I, and the mother is going to push the girl to play, right? So how do you innovate these sort of solutions so that more girls play, right? Because they really do want to play. Like we heard about Sathak sir saying कि they cried कि मुझे खेलना है, मुझे खेलने दो sir, right? And it's just about giving those opportunities to them. I think lastly, I think we have realized that they need a chance to compete, and it's not about the medal, but they really need a chance to compete as much as they can at whatever level they are playing. And if we can create those opportunities for them, they really learn a lot of life skills that they will otherwise not learn. Right? Because sport really teaches you things beyond the medal. It teaches you dedication, it teaches you, being confident, it makes you a leader. Like if you're playing a team sport, it teaches you team skills, right? And these skills are transferable skills. I mean, these are skills that you can take with you wherever you go with your life, right? And that sport can teach you from day one. And for girls, it's extremely, extremely important, right? So I'll just end with one more thing that, when we spoke to some of the girls in Bihar and we asked them कि, क्या फ़र्क लगता है एक athlete में और एक normal, जो नहीं खेलती है लड़कियाँ, आपके गाँव में वैसी भी लड़कियाँ होंगी. तो the athletes told us that two things. One is less hair. That we boycott kiya, so you're an athlete. And the second thing that they told me was, डरते नहीं हैं हम. As an athlete, I become independent and I'm not scared. I need to travel. So I need to find my way and not be afraid. But my girls who don't play are much more afraid. So I think sport is about medals, but from a female perspective, it's much, much beyond that. And we need to keep creating those spaces for them.
Right. And usually when we have panels like this, panelists don't really make it about themselves. But in your case, you're a case in point. We were talking about, all through the day, there were conversations about creating an ecosystem around sports, right? You need to have, whether they continue professionally or not, you bring them back and keep them in the system somehow. And you're an example of that. You took your kid all the way to Paris. And you spoke about maybe a couple of years back, if you had a nursing baby, maybe you wouldn't have been able to do that. Either your kid doesn't come or you don't go. So in that space, Mihira, have you ever had conversations with maybe other women like you who are in spaces like this, Aditi, Deepa ma'am included, several others in Reliance, across corporates? What are those challenges like perhaps to just keep you guys in the ecosystem?
I think it takes a whole village to support a woman to excel and exceed, because I think as women we need some sort of push that comes in, because it's a culture that we push everyone else, but I think it takes a village to push us and keep us in the center stage as well. So basically I had a 3-month-old coming with me at the Paris Olympic Games, and I was exclusively breastfed 3-month-old, and I think it took the support of the organization that I work for and my entire family to support me and to help me do what I do at this level. And like you rightly said, I think communication still continues to be a big barrier, even in cities. And when we speak about the challenges that women face all across, especially athletes, women athletes who then eventually leave their sport or don't necessarily pursue it back again, because then ghar sambhalna hai, bachon ko sambhalna hai. But it takes a support system at home to really be there and push you and get you out there to be able to do what they do. And generally I feel that most women who work, they have to either let their jobs go or take a break from their careers, take 2 years off before they can restart everything from scratch. So I think these are the main challenges that they face all across, where their life comes at a pure full stop, and then they have to restart everything and restart, finding their, career path. They lose their individuality in the process because they were somebody else, now they are just a mother, So I think it takes an entire village to to help women do what they are meant to do, and it's the support system of the family and the organization that you work with that plays a very, very crucial role. And beyond this, if I have 2 minutes to add a little bit on women in sport, something very interesting that I was reading about was that all of the current research on women athletes is absolutely based on the findings that are coming from male athletes. There was a 2021 research paper that spoke about there's been about 5,500 studies on sports science and medicine. Usme only 34% were women athletes who were included as a part of that study. Usme se only 6% focused exclusively on women. So everything related to training, periodization, load management, nutrition, SNC is based on the data that's coming in from male athletes. So I think there's a dearth of knowledge in terms of what do female athletes need. Do they need anything differently at all? And if yes, what is it? And there's a huge lacuna in this area. And everything that the Bihar government is initiating to do, I think this is a great start and inception of something very big for women in Bihar. So.
Right. I want to finish on one note because you mentioned this is a great stat, but there's another side of that conversation, right? When we talk about stats coming in primarily from men, that's one element of it. The other element is not all conversations about women's sports or women in any field are exclusively about women. There is the other 50% as well who sometimes feel like they're not part of the conversation, which is not true. Even when we started this, because it began on that menstruation note, there was chattering on one half of the hall because it got uncomfortable potentially. I don't know, maybe we'll go and find out after the session's over. But how do you involve men in a conversation, or how do you involve, when it's sensitive stuff like this, or keeping male coaches in mind, or fathers, or brothers, or a male guardian in mind, or even if you have teammates who are men who train with women, how does that sensitivity come into play as women professionals in each of your disciplines? Is that something that you've had to, consciously work on potentially?
Yes, I think I remember my father giving me a golden mantra of life. He taught me that you have to merge to emerge. So you have to create that atmosphere of comfort around you. And I have realized over a period of time that people will look at you the way you look at yourself. If you come across as a confident person, easy to talk, not throwing tantrums, because in any case, when a man is pushing something, he is assertive. But when a woman is pushing something, it is having mood swings or PMS, or it is always credited to some hormonal change in her body. So, but you have to create that comfort. And one thing which you just said, that half of the hall is making their private conversations, probably thinking that whatever we are talking on the stage is very women related. But the entire sports ecosystem has to now remember, taking from the example of Paris 2024, it was a gender neutral sports. They had equal amount of medals for women as they had for men. The equal amount of representation of women was required if the country was supposed to be on a medal tally. So you have to very consciously now create women in the pipeline in every field, whether it is science, sports, referee, training, technician, coaches, because today's world is, if you want to be a sporting nation with certain degree of performance, you can't leave the women behind. You have to have their medals also on the tally. So I think this is something which we consciously have to make a conversations around, and I'm really thankful to Department of Sports Bihar, and like we just jumped into the conversation straight away, and could not really get that chance of expressing the courtesy, because these are difficult topics, these are hard topics. Thank you, Sports Star, for making these conversations. Unless the administrators or the people who can make a difference talk about it. I'm really happy to have Sharad here from the Paralympics. All the senior athletes, Shiva, Vijender, they all are here. It's time for we athletes also to give back to the system. Because when already those who have played speak about something, the other young budding athletes connect to it in a more logical manner.
Yeah. No, I have to say that, I'm sitting here representing Simply Sport, and the man who's behind it is a man. you know. So when I joined Simply Sport, Ankit Nagori, our founder, he clearly told me that we want to do, you know, something specific for women. And in terms of, you know, talking about Ravindran sir here, he's a man. When I talk to most of my academies and organizations, I don't have to actually convince them. They're all men actually sitting in these positions, and they're already part of these conversations, and they're saying yes for me to come in, right? So I really think that you know, the men are already part of this. I mean, for us, from our experience, right, they are enablers. They are enabling us to do this. Otherwise, you know, I don't think I would have been here talking about periods or running an initiative like this, right? So I think definitely that, you know, we need more and more of this to happen, and we need more and more, you know, men. And it could start with something like our sports policy, for example, right? Should we have a more gendered lens in our policy in terms of what are we, you know, saying, and what are we going to do for women even better, you know, through our policy. And it's okay to have a gender neutral policy, but the equity question comes in here as well, because, you know, equity is a problem in India, right? We don't have the similar starting points. And so maybe, you know, something at the policy level, if that says that, you know, making these workshops or making these sort of conversations, or having, you know, more sort of things done on research, for example, like Mihira said, that we should have certain percentage of research papers on women, for women. All of these things will, of course, help more. But I really think that, you know, men are already, like, for example, she spoke about having a village. So, you know, even I am a mother to a 5-year-old, and I'm sitting here only because of Chinmay. Because he said, I'll look after you, go, right? So I think they're already there. It's already changed, and men are, you know, more than sort of supportive of what we want to do. But it's also about us putting this forefront and saying we want to solve for this and we want to take this up.
I'll just take 2 minutes to end this, but I'll talk about it more from the grassroots sense, because all the workshops, webinars, education that we do about female athletes and the entire sports science piece to it with females, we also do that with our male athletes. We also educate them about why female athletes are different and why their requirements, needs, etc. are different. And to share a very simple, sweet case is that we have our athletic center in Bhubaneswar, for example, where we keep doing all of these webinars, education piece. And we've empowered all of our male athletes back then, and they also know what a female athlete kit could look like. So if their peers, their friends, if they are suffering from something, if they need a sanitary pad, they keep it, they have it. You know, so that they're able to sort of support them in that way. So I think it's important to empower their male athletes as well, so that they are able to be compassionate, be empathetic, and be considerate as they train with their female athletes in the group that they train with. So,
right? I think that's our time. Thank you so much, all three of you. Yes.
Lavanya, the few challenges that my journey has taken me through, and my experiences through this journey of parasports, I have a little book to gift. It's all been written down in that, and there is more there. So I would love to share it with my co-panelists.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, ma'am. And thank you, everybody, for listening in.